Imagine this. Tomorrow morning, you wake up and your phone is completely silent. No messages, no missed calls, no one asking where you are, no one wondering if you're okay. Just silence. For most people, that silence feels unbearable, not because they're physically alone, but because their mind instantly asks one dangerous question. What if no one actually needs me? That's where the real pain begins. Psychology reveals something most people never realize. Loneliness isn't created by being alone. It's created by the meaning your mind assigns to being alone. Two people can experience the exact same silence. One smiles and thinks, finally peace. The other panics and thinks, maybe I'm not enough. Same silence, different story, different reality. That's why people chase those who never choose them. Not because they need that person, because they're trying to escape the fear that being alone means they're not enough. But here's what emotionally strong people eventually discover. Solitude isn't a verdict, it's a mirror. It doesn't reveal your value, it reveals the relationship you have with yourself. And the moment you stop asking other people to prove your worth, their absence loses its power over you. Because real freedom isn't finding people who never leave, it's becoming someone who never abandons themselves. Think about the last time someone didn't reply. Not tomorrow, not next week, just left your message sitting there. How long did it take before your mind started writing a story? Did I say something wrong? Are they losing interest? What if they're done with me? Notice something. The message didn't change. The phone didn't change. Reality didn't change. Only one thing did. The story inside your head. And that's where the real prison begins. Psychology reveals something few people ever notice. Your brain would rather invent a painful explanation than live with an unanswered question. So when certainty disappears, fear fills the silence. The less secure you feel within yourself, the more convincing that fear becomes. That's why two people can face the exact same silence and walk away with completely different realities. One thinks, they're probably busy. The other thinks, I've been rejected. Same silence, different meaning, different life. Here's the part most people never realize. The message was never controlling your emotions. The meaning you attached to it was. That's the invisible prison. The moment your identity depends on someone else's attention, every delayed reply feels like a verdict. Every cancelled plan feels like abandonment. Every goodbye feels like proof that you were never enough. But the people who never fear being alone break that pattern. They stop asking, why didn't they choose me? And start asking, why did I hand someone else the power to define my worth? That single question breaks the prison door open. Because freedom doesn't begin when everyone stays. It begins when your peace no longer depends on whether anyone does. This is the moment everything begins to change. Not because the world changes, because you do. Psychologists have noticed a pattern. The people who stop fearing loneliness don't suddenly become more popular. They don't magically find perfect relationships. They simply stop treating themselves like someone who needs to be rescued. And that changes everything. Most people use silence as evidence against themselves. Emotionally resilient people use silence as information. That's the difference. One person sits alone and hears a verdict, you're not enough. Another sits in the exact same silence and hears a question, what is this trying to teach me? Same room, same silence, completely different future. Because solitude does something constant noise never can. It doesn't create a different version of you. It reveals the one you've been too distracted to meet. The fears you've been outrunning. The truth you've been avoiding. The life you've been postponing. At first, That meeting feels uncomfortable. Most people mistake that feeling for loneliness. It isn't. It's the sound of your mind adjusting to no longer need constant distraction. And then something remarkable happens. The emotions you stop running from. Stop deciding where you run. The silence that once felt like loss becomes proof that your peace no longer depends on anyone else. That's the turning point. Because freedom doesn't begin when everyone chooses you. It begins when you no longer need them to. Here's the irony. The moment you stop fearing being alone, people begin feeling different around you. Not because you became more interesting, not because you became more attractive, because you stopped asking them to carry the weight of your self-worth. And people can feel that. Your kindness is no longer a negotiation. Your confidence no longer needs an audience. Your relationships are no longer built on fear, but on freedom. That's what psychology has been pointing toward all along. The opposite of loneliness isn't being surrounded by people. It's no longer being at war with yourself. Because the moment you finally feel at home within your own mind, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing people who have already decided to leave. You stop trying to earn what should have been given freely. And you stop mistaking someone's absence for evidence that you were never enough. People will still leave. Plans will still change. Messages will still go unanswered. Silence will still arrive. But now, silence means something different. It no longer asks, who will stay? It asks, can you stay with yourself? And for the first time, your answer is yes. That's the moment everything changes. Because the strongest relationship you'll ever build isn't the one that begins with another person. It's the one waiting. Every time you're willing to meet yourself without running away. And once that relationship becomes uncheckable, solitude stops feeling like survival. It becomes strength. It becomes peace. It becomes freedom. Because the greatest freedom you'll ever experience is waking up one day and realizing your happiness no longer needs anyone else's permission. That's when you're no longer simply alone. You're finally free.